marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
And boy, do I have a few things to say about it. Rosie the Riveter here, dropping more truth bombs to destroy fake news and propaganda. Now, before we begin, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Doing so really does help share the truth with many people. So let's talk about marriage. Now that the abortion has constitutionally been sent back to the states where it belongs, many are wondering if the same thing will happen to same-sex marriage. Again, where it belongs. First, we need to address what marriage is. The definition that has stood for thousands of years is a union between a man and a woman.
Man and wife, say man and wife.
That stood until about 5 minutes ago when we had this massive push for same-sex marriage, using the argument, why can't two people who love each other share in a marriage? It's their civil right. While I understand this point of view, it's not marriage. Just like a man chopping off his private parts and getting breast implants is not a woman. It's a man pretending to be a woman, which doesn't strengthen what a woman is. It ultimately diminishes women. And I would argue that's the point. Marriage has been a part of every culture throughout history. Many of these cultures have, and still some have, arranged marriages. Romantic love doesn't necessarily prompt those unions. However, most couples usually grow to love each other as they build a family together. Likewise, many cultures didn't, and some still don't, have formal ceremonies or marriage licenses. As I wrote in my liberating letter, Marriage is What Brings Us Together Today, I explain, in many cultures, a wedding ceremony isn't even required. Up until the 1500s, the Christian Church would declare a marriage valid, even without witnesses, as long as the couple affirmed they had exchanged marriage vows. Marriages were private agreements between two families, sometimes for love, but sometimes for royal lineage, financial, social, or simply procreational reasons. The union was recorded in the family Bible, and with that, it was official. This was demonstrated in Genesis when Abraham's servant, at Abraham's direction, brought Rebekah to Isaac to be his wife. Now, Isaac never met Rebekah before, but accepted this was his chosen bride when she arrived. They immediately consummated the relationship, which meant they were married. No wedding, no fanfare, there wasn't even an engagement period. But most importantly, there was no government involvement. So why, after years of the church being the entity to recognize marriages, did the government get involved? Well, to be frank, to restrict interracial marriage. There are marriage laws dating back as far as 1639 in Massachusetts, and until the Supreme Court defied the 11th Amendment in 2015, these laws were decided by the states. That's how it got to the Supreme Court in the first place. Californians overwhelmingly voted against gay marriage, which a federal judge said that they couldn't do, and it was taken to the Supreme Court. Exact same circumstances abortion, and just like abortion, the SCOTUS was wrong. Because of the church's hands-off approach to marriage until about the 16th century, many argue there is no religious history or foundation in marriage. I beg to differ, and let me show you why. You know from Moses' Torah that not only did God institute marriage in Genesis 2, He addressed it in his laws as well as addressing homosexuality, which he called an abomination. Whether you believe the Bible is God's inerrant word or just a bunch of man-made stories, there is no denying marriage and homosexuality have been around from the beginning. And marriage has always been one man and one woman.
Man and wife. Say man and wife.
The Pharisees tried to trick Jesus by asking him about divorce, in which Jesus replied using God's words in Genesis 2. And he answered and said to them, "Have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, 'For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh'? So then, they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate." Did you catch that last line? Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. Those of you who don't believe marriage has a religious basis, have you not heard that in almost every wedding you've been to prior to the last 7 years? Did you know Jesus said that? We know God takes marriage seriously because throughout the entire Bible, God compares Christ, our Savior and the second body of the Trinity, to the groom, and the church as his holy bride, which he sanctifies. His people constantly worshiping other gods is compared to adultery and is despised by God. Marriage is very much a Judeo-Christian institution. So, Rosie, why do you think there's an attack on marriage? Very simple, America. Communism.
Because we are individualists and accept the concept of personal responsibility for ourselves and our dependents, therefore, we view the family as the basic unit of society, secondary only to the individual himself. All totalitarian regimes, whether of ancient Sparta or modern Peking, all of them strive to destroy the close-knit family in order to remove any loyalties that might be higher than to the state itself. They don't like competition. Totalitarians would prefer no family units at all if they could force that on the people. The communes of Red China or Haight Ashbury are ideal for their purposes. But almost the same results can be achieved even within the institution of matrimony if only the people involved can be induced to abandon their parental responsibilities, because the real objective is to remove the family as a possible alternate source of guidance and support. And so the John Birch Society is committed to the preservation and strengthening of the family for practical as well as moral reasons.
In the 1960s, Democrat President Lyndon B. Johnson pushed through his New Deal package, which did nothing more but make the father, primarily the black father, unnecessary. As a result, the single mother wedded herself to the government, greatly damaging the nuclear family. Before the New Deal, 70% of black children were born to a married couple. Today, 70% of black children, those that are allowed to be born, may I add, are born to single mothers.
Gus Hall, head of the Communist Party, explained it this way. This is the January 24th, 1965 issue of The Worker, and Gus Hall said, "The communist attitude toward the Great Society can be summarized in an old saying that two men sleeping in the same bed can have different dreams. We communists support every measure of the Great Society concept because we dream of socialism." And when you recall what Gus Hall means when he says socialism, then you realize that the communists support the welfare programs of the Great Society, the New Deal, the New Frontier, or whatever they decide to call it in the future, because they dream of bringing communism to America through these programs.
Same-sex marriage is part of that same push for communism. The self-proclaimed Marxist BLM founders originally posted their desire to disrupt the nuclear family in favor of collectivism as part of their platform on their What We Believe page. Once attention was brought to it, they quickly and quietly removed it. Fortunately, or unfortunately in many circumstances, the internet is forever. I found it in the Wayback Machine, and they definitely support LGBTQ and the collective over the cisgender community and traditional marriage. In 2012, outspoken lesbian activist to the LGBTQ community, Meshaga-san, admitted gay marriage is a lie to resounding applause, stating the goal is not to expand marriage, but to make it obsolete.
In a speech just given by Masha Gessen, she is an author and outspoken activist for the LGBT community. She says that many supporters of traditional marriage, what they have speculated for years, she says that it's true. The push for gay marriage has less to do with the right to marry. She says it's about diminishing and eventually destroying the institution of marriage and redefining the traditional family. Listen carefully.
I agree. It's a no-brainer that we should have the right to marry. But I also think equally that it's a no-brainer that the institution of marriage should not exist. So that causes my brain some trouble. And part of it, why it causes me trouble, is because fighting for gay marriage generally involves lying about what we're going to do with marriage when we get there. You know, because we lie that the institution of marriage is not going to change. And that is a lie. The institution of marriage is going to change, and it should change. And again, I don't think it should exist. I don't like taking part in creating fictions about my life. That's sort of not what I had in mind when I came out 30 years ago.
I totally appreciate those who are in a same-sex relationship, and they want the right to visit their loved one if they're in the hospital. Also, a same-sex couple that has been together for years, maybe decades even, want to know that their partner will not lose everything when they pass away. I get that. And agreements such as civil unions are an option and should be discussed. But expanding the definition of marriage to include such unions does not make it inclusive. It makes it meaningless, just like communism designed. Once marriage is destroyed, once our children have no idea what gender is, and our law enforcement is handcuffed from enforcing the law, societies and civilizations deteriorate into complete chaos, allowing a strongman tyrant to enter into the picture and easily overtake power without having to invoke a hostile takeover. I'm Rosie the Riveter, and that's my 2 cents. But what do you think? Leave your comments down below. Make no mistake, we are in an information war, and our weapon is truth. Find it. If you don't know where to start, begin at thefactspaper.com, where I have linked to hundreds of articles fighting fake news and propaganda, including those noted in this video. The fight is tough and the fight is hard, but we are winning. The light of truth will destroy the evils of darkness. Come on, patriots, we can do it.